Hello friends, it's Grace and welcome back to another video. The video that I'm going to be doing today is some wintry book recommendations because, especially if you live in a place like me, I'm from Canada, for those of you who are new here and may not know that. We are truly in the depths of winter right now. So I thought that this would be a very appropriate list to put out since January is of course one of the coldest months of the year, and I feel like these books really capture that essence. They do it in different ways, so I have 5 books to talk to you about here, and there's some variety here, but in one way or another, these books all very much fit with the winter season. The first book that I'm going to talk about today is In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. So this is a pretty light and fluffy romance that has some sci-fi elements to it. And the reason that this is on this list is because our main character in this novel is on her way to her yearly retreat with her family, where her family and a bunch of other families where their parents are all friends and they've known each other basically their whole lives. They spend every Christmas season together in this very cozy cabin that is in a very wintry place. It's a winter wonderland there, and so this is our setting for this book, and it is also a Christmas setting. So the title of In a Holidaze really captures that. But the winter is very much a prominent theme in this book. We have some fun outdoor activities. The snow is very prevalent, and have some things like our characters having a snowman building competition and snowball fights and all sorts of fun things like that. So this is a book that was a very easy and very fun read, and I personally think that even if you don't read this at Christmas, even though it's a holiday themed book, it's very appropriate for any time in the winter, and it will make you feel cozy in this temperature. The second book / series that I am putting on this list is a little heavier than In a Holidaze, and that is the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. And I mean, this Assassin's Apprentice is the first book in this series, and I myself am actually not finished this trilogy yet. I am nearly finished with Assassin's Quest, so I am almost done. But the reason that I'm putting this on here, this is a fantasy novel, and this first book is very much a coming-of-age story about our main character, Fitz, who, as you can probably guess by the very descriptive, lovely title, is a assassin's apprentice and is being trained to be that. So Fitz is a royal bastard. He was fathered by one of the princes that obviously was out of wedlock, and we follow Fitz as he grows up. But further into this series, in my opinion, winter and winter weather become very prevalent and become a very overriding theme. We spend a lot of time with our characters sort of fighting against the elements in things that they have to do and in their storylines, and winter weather and winter storms actually play an important role in this story as a whole because of things that come with the seasons. So maybe it's because I have just read Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest that I am noticing the prevalence of winter themes more, but I really do feel like these books would be really great to read in the winter months. Although I will say that these books can get heavy. Robin Hobb is known for her very emotional and very honestly sad at times treatment of her characters. So her characters go through some really tough things in this book. So while I think that this is a very appropriately winter read, I will say that if you are someone who maybe has seasonal depression or struggles with the moods that occur in the winter months, because I know that it can get us down sometimes, I would keep that in mind before diving into this. So that's just something to know about before you go in. However, this really is a wonderful series, so I would definitely recommend it in general. The third book on my list is a standalone self-published fantasy book, and that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. And this is a standalone, but there are other books written in this universe that don't follow the exact same characters and story. But for the characters and story that we follow, Sword of Kaigen is a standalone. And the reason that this is on my wintry books list is because of the setting and the magic that we find these characters in. Because Sword of Kaigen has some really cool elementally based magic, and our characters from this piece of land that's called the Sword of Kaigen, where they live in a very mountainous region. They get very wintry weather, and they actually can manipulate water magic. So there is a lot of use of water and ice and some really, really cool developments of that magic. And the way that they use it in here is like the way that M.L. Wang has written battle scenes with this magic and also with the opposing types of magic that others can use in this world is extremely cool. And because of that use of ice and the prominence of this like mountainous and snowy region, and also the fact that some really, really important and cool emotional moments take place in the snow, this is, in my opinion, very wintry vibes. Even though I read it in the middle of the summer, I think that it would be perfect to read this in the winter months. The next book that I have is a contemporary novel, and that is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. And so this has wintry vibes because of the setting, but before getting into this, I just want to say that this is a book that does deal with very heavy topics. This is something that you should be very aware going into. It has trigger warnings for sexual assault as a major trigger warning, and I definitely want people to know that, because this is a book that does deal with some very tough things, and it kind of explores humanity as a whole. But the reason why this is such a wintry setting and wintry feel is because this book takes place in a small town in Sweden, and this town is basically not really close to anything. It is sort of deep in the woods. It has very much small town vibes because we follow a lot of characters in here and they all know each other. And this book is about hockey. And, well, okay, it's about hockey, but it's not really about hockey. It's about the culture that can be created if young people, and boys especially, are given a sense of their own importance where they think that they can do whatever they want, essentially. Because we have a setup where this hockey team is sort of in trouble. Like, their program has been getting smaller for years, but they have one star player who they have faith is going to take them to the top and take them to tournaments where they can then again rise to more prominence, and hopefully their hockey club will thrive based on that success. So needless to say, they have put a lot of pressure on this kid, and he has an inflated idea of himself, and there is a lot of exploration of all sorts of characters, like members of the team, members of this community who are not part of the hockey club, members of their classmates, and just other people who exist in the town. And I don't really want to explicitly talk about the inciting incident in this book, but I just want to tell you that this has a very deeply cold vibe throughout the whole book because of where it takes place, but it also has this really interesting exploration of humanity that at times makes you feel cold and at times makes you feel warmth. So this, honestly, it's fantastic. It did make me cry like 10 times when I read it. I feel like I'm kind of rambling incoherently about it, but I loved this book. But I would definitely recommend that you read the synopsis before getting into this, because the content in here is definitely something that could affect someone negatively, and I would not want anyone to go into this without knowing that. However, if the content in Beartown is something that you think that you personally will be okay with, I think that it has some extremely important conversations about this tough subject matter, and things that need to be said and conversations that need to be had. So I really loved it for that. Finally, on a lighter note, the last book that I have on this list is probably a surprise to very few people, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine and Arden. I have talked about this book numerous times in recent videos because it was one of my favorites of 2021. It was also in my December wrap-up, and so it has been getting all the hype from me, but deservedly so, in my opinion. Honestly, this is fantastic. The reason why this is on my wintry book recommendations is because this book is set in a forest town in historical Russia, and basically the entire thing takes place in a very deep wintry atmosphere, and the descriptions of cold in this book are phenomenal. It really is something that you can feel, and you can feel it with the characters, and these people are very robust. Like, they grew up here and they live here, and so they know how to deal with it. But even so, you can just feel like when it's described how a lot of them will kind of huddle around the oven for warmth to sleep in the winter, because that's what they need to do in order to like survive properly and make sure that they actually have body heat and things like that. And when the forest is described, it's beautiful, but it's also cold and deadly. You can tell, like, if someone is out there for too long, they won't come back. And so it really sets the scene for what goes on here, because the mythology and the folklore that is delved into in this story is very appropriate. Like, it is also very atmospherically driven and very appropriate for the setting. So all of that is woven together super well in The Bear and the Nightingale, and if you have been looking to read it, I think that now or in the next couple of months in the winter would be the perfect time. So this was a relatively short list, but those are the books that I would recommend that I think are perfect winter reads. They just have the right vibes for this time of year. A couple of them are heavier though in terms of content, so again, if you are someone whose mood is affected by the seasons, maybe give that some consideration before diving into those ones. However, they are still phenomenal books if you would want to read them at some other time of year, if you want to read them at all. But regardless, those are my recommendations. I've loved all of these books, and I hope that you do too if you decide to pick them up. Let me know if you have any thoughts down in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more content from me. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!